You've been a critic of his views.
I haven't been so much a critic of his views as rather an observer of the fact that he has no views. If you look at the book you're quoting from, Arguments Against War, two problems about it. One, there are no arguments, not a single argument. What the arguments all reduce to, I believe, or I think, or it seems to me. Okay, that's not an argument. The second interesting fact about it is that there are no opponents. He's giving arguments against war, but against who? It's radical pacifists, or they say on campus, or something like that. I mean, this is intellectually deplorable. Actually, he does mention two people. One of them, his major enemy, Edward Said. He makes some outrageous statement about people who support terror, in a footnote, saying, well, that's Edward Said's position. And then he adds to it, and he says, in a more moderate way, it's been indicated by Richard Falk. He's more respectable, so you have to be more polite. That's who the arguments are against throughout the whole book, and there isn't a single argument. Actually, his famous book, Just and Unjust Wars, was pretty similar. It's very hard to find an argument, just I think. But this statement, I think, is standard. I mean, he's just repeating conventional wisdom, so you can't really blame him for it. But on what grounds is it a triumph of just war theory? Actually, there was one of his colleagues, Jean Belka-Elstein, who wrote an equally horrible book on it, intellectually outrageous and morally depraved, in my opinion. I've gone through a lot of it. She gives reasons. She says, yes, this was a triumph of just war theory, and then she gives a set of reasons. The trouble is every single one of her reasons is a complete falsehood. I went through this in print, so I won't. It's in Hegemony or Survival, so I won't go through it again. She's got the facts wrong, and the arguments don't apply. Some of them are flatly contradicted by what happened. That doesn't matter. It's triumph of just war theory. In fact, just war theory, whatever you think about it, has been converted into a form of apologetics for whatever atrocities your favorite state is carrying out.
One of the aspects of war resistance in the late 60s and early 1970s was the establishment of GI coffee houses. There's a documentary film on this called Sir, No Sir, and one is being, that whole idea is being revived right now. There's one being set up near Fort Drum in upstate New York, where the 10th Mountain Division is located. You were very familiar with the GI coffee house movement. Why don't you just describe that for people that may not be familiar with it, and was it effective?
It was quite effective. This was a support system for soldiers run by the anti-war movement, and it was very effective. The coffee houses were just places for soldiers to come near bases. They could do whatever they want. Nobody was trying to propagandize them, but there were discussion groups, and if they wanted to join them, fine. Some of the discussion groups were organized by the anti-war activists who set them up, but it's up to them. And these had an effect in building up what was a very significant movement. In fact, it still exists. Vietnam Veterans Against the War is still functioning very well. They're doing reconstruction projects in Vietnam. They're active here and so on. Actually, one of the leaders was John Kerry, but I didn't trust him at the time and have ample reason to. There were also GI-run anti-war trials, war crimes trials, where soldiers and officers would report on what they had done and what they had witnessed, like the Winter Soldier, but there were a series of them around the country, and they were effective. And I think it's a good time to renew that.
David Krieger runs a group called the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation in Santa Barbara, and he asks the question, why are there still nuclear weapons? And he proposes some answers. What would you say to that?
Simply that the nuclear-armed states are criminal states. They have a legal obligation confirmed by the World Court to live up to Article 6 of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which calls on them to carry out good faith negotiations to eliminate nuclear weapons entirely. None of them have lived up to it. The U.S. has violated it more than others, much more. It's in the lead in violating it, especially this administration. which has in fact stated that it doesn't, it's not subject to Article 6, and has developed new nuclear weapon systems, has dismantled. The Non-Proliferation Treaty is just one of a collection of treaties. The others have been dismantled and are blocked by the Bush administration. So sure, in fact, they just entered into an agreement with India, which has just been ratified by Congress, which tears to shreds